Yes.
Now, should we pass for you? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. That's right here. Make sure you speak up in the microphone, okay?
Okay.
And if you need to move the microphone to your lap, feel free to do so. Mr. Lawson, thank you for coming in. Will you please state and spell your name for the record?
Jamal Lawson, Jamal, last name Lawson, Lawson.
Thank you, sir. Briefly, can you tell us why you're here today?
I'm here today because of the incident that happened on December the 20th.
Okay. And where were you on December the 20th?
I had just recently picked up two of my daughters and I was on my way to pick up my one of my third.
So were you in your car?
Yes,
Do you recall whereabouts you were?
I was on Shaper.
Schaefer, is that in the city of Detroit, County Wayne?
Yes,
Thank you. And so who all was in the car?
my oldest daughter, which is Aliyah, and I had my second oldest in the back.
Okay, so was Melinda sitting in the front seat?
Yes.
Passenger side, shotgun, so to speak?
Yes,
And your other daughter, is that Angelina?
yes,
And how old are your two daughters? These two daughters?
15 and 16.
Okay. So where was Angelina sitting? Was she sitting behind you or behind her sister?
Behind her sister.
Okay. While you were on the road, did you notice a gray Saturn Aura?
Yes,
And what was it about this vehicle that made you notice it, that made you take note of it?
speeding.
Speeding? What else?
It was speeding and it was trying to get from behind me, so it kept swerving in and out of lanes.
Okay. At any point, did it cross over into oncoming traffic?
Yes, it did.
Can you explain to us what happened there?
The closer we got to the expressway and the marathon, it jumped in the other lane trying to get past me. When the oncoming traffic came, that's when he noticed the traffic, jumped over and struck me from the side.
Okay, so what kind of car were you in?
Within a 2010 Buick LaCrosse.
Okay, so you were in your Buick LaCrosse, and for the record, well, I'll strike that. You were in your Buick LaCrosse, and this person who was in the Saturn was directly behind you, is that correct?
At one moment.
At one point. And then is it your testimony that he went around you to the left
Yes,
into oncoming traffic?
Yes.
In order to try and get ahead of you?
yes.
Okay. Was he able to get ahead of you?
He got ahead of us. He was passing us. Then the oncoming traffic came. He slowed down and jumped over.
Did he get right back behind you?
He struck me, and that's when I stopped because the way the car, the rear end kind of shifted a little bit, so he ended up in front of me.
He ended up in front of you. Okay. And where on your vehicle did he strike?
He struck me on the driver's side and back.
In the back. Okay. So at this point,
Well, I'm sorry, it was on the side.
okay, I'm sorry. So you said something about how it shifted the car. Can you explain that?
It kind of fishtailed a little bit.
Okay, so is it your testimony that this Saturn hit the driver's side of your car and it caused your car to move over slightly?
Yes,
Okay, and am I correct in saying that he ended up in front of you? Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, thank you. What happened here? Did you get out of your car?
no,
Did he get out of his car?
yes,
Did he approach your car?
yes, he did.
Do you see the person, and I'm gonna ask the court to direct everyone in the courtroom to remove their masks for 10 seconds. Your Honor, if we may do that, would you please take your time and look around the courtroom and see if you recognize the person who approached you?
Yes,
You do? Can you please point to him and identify him by an article of his clothing?
the young man with the red shirt.
Okay, Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant. So reflected. Thank you. So he approaches your car.
Yes,
Doesn't he have anything in his hand?
he had a tablet in his hand.
What does he say?
He asked me, did I have insurance?
What was your response?
I told him, you can find out once the police come. Can you step away from my car so I can attend to my daughter? Because my daughter was freaking out because of the accident.
Okay. Did he comply? Did he leave? Did he go back to his car?
No,
What did he say?
he looked at me at the moment when my daughter's number was freaking out. I had my firearm in my hand, considering that I got a I'm a CP holder. He looked down, seen my firearm, laughed.
Okay,
He told me.
I'm sorry, you said you saw your firearm and laughed?
Yes.
Okay.
okay, what did he say?
He laughed. He was like, "Oh, you don't pull your firearm, shoot."
Okay,
I
and what did you say in response?
I told him, just, can you please step away from my car so I can attend to my daughters? I had asked him a couple of times, and that's when he started to step away from my car.
Okay, did he go back to his car?
He went back to his car. That's when me and my daughter noticed that he had a firearm in his pocket.
Okay, how did you catch a glimpse of the firearm?
You can, with his jogging pants, you seen the arm, the handle.
The handle, so, was the remainder of the firearm in his pants?
Yes,
Could you only see the handle?
I seen it, it kind of looked like it was a nickel plated, firearm.
Okay, was it a handgun?
Yes,
Okay. And, what did he do next? So you saw that he had a firearm, what did he do next?
he walked towards his car, he opened his driver door up, he put his tablet in his car. That's when I seen his arm as he was pulling his firearm.
Okay, and for the record, the witness is making a movement like he was pulling something from his waistband. Is that correct, sir?
I seen him pulling his, reaching, basically in his pocket, pulling his firearm.
Okay, and did he point his firearm at you?
He stepped maybe 1 or 2 steps away from his car, fired 3 rounds in.
Could you see where he was aiming?
Was more worrying about my daughter than anything. I didn't care what was gonna happen to me. I feared for my daughters.
Was he pointing the firearm at your vehicle?
Yes,
Did you hear gunshots?
3.
3. Did you see or hear where the bullets struck?
At that moment, it was more like I was in shock.
Understood. Was there any damage to your car from bullet
Yes,
marks? Okay, whereabouts? Do you know whereabouts on the vehicle?
3 bullets. 3 bullet holes went through the driver's side window.
Okay, thank you so much. And then you said that you had a firearm on you. What did you do next?
At that moment, my 15-year-old, she went from panicking to freaking out, claiming. She was saying that her head started hurting. First, it was more, she was shocked, she was crying and everything, to she was crying, "Daddy, my head hurts real bad." That's when
What are you thinking?
I thought he shot her in the head.
Okay, and what did you do?
So that's when I fired 5 rounds through the window, through the windshield. I seen him jumping in this car. The only thing that I can think of is he's either.
Judge, I'm going to object to speculation.
Okay, we won't get into what you got. You said he jumped into his car.
Yes.
Do you know whether you struck him?
No.
Okay, what did you do next?
That's when I proceeded to step out my car, and I proceeded to defend myself and my daughters and fired inside of his car.
And what are you thinking at this point?
Number my daughters.
Okay, are you scared?
Yes.
Are you scared that this man's gonna fire again?
Yes.
Thank you. Was anyone in the car injured?
My 2 daughters.
How were they injured?
My 15-year-old, she had glass in her eye, and one of her eyes. My 16-year-old had glass in her back.
Did they receive medical treatment?
Yes.
Did they go to the hospital?
Yes.
Do you know about how long they were in the hospital?
I'm not exactly sure.
Were they released the same day?
Yes.
Okay. Have they had any lasting, medical trauma?
Yes.
Objection to the relevance, Judge?
The relevance is to prove AWIM and GBH, and part of that is, continuing medical treatment and continuing medical trauma.
But I don't think an element of either of those offenses is the continuing nature of any alleged harm. I would maintain my objection.
Let me defer anyone you know after any.
Thank you, guys. All right, that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Lawson, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
I'm going to back up and make sure I understand what you testified to today, okay?
Okay,
On this particular day, you were driving on Schaefer Road, you said?
yes,
You were going west. That would be southbound on Schaefer?
yes,
Okay, toward the I-96 freeway?
correct,
And you said that you had recently or just then picked up your two daughters from school.
yes,
So it was 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon, is that fair?
yes.
Do you remember exactly what time it was?
I knew it was after 3 o'clock. It had been around about 3:15, 3:20, because of the time my daughters got out of school.
Okay, and you were on your way, you said, to pick up another daughter.
Yes,
It was daylight.
yes,
You were paying attention to your driving.
yes,
Have you had any traffic accidents?
no,
So on this particular day, you noticed that there was a vehicle, what you say was speeding behind you and trying to pass you?
yes,
There are points along Schaefer Highway there where there are 2 lanes separated by a double yellow line, correct?
yes,
And there are also points along Schaefer Highway where there are 2 lanes separated by a center left turn lane. Is that
Yes.
true? Is
yes,
that true? Yes. And when you say that this car, what kind of car was it?
it was Saturn.
When the Saturn, you say, zipped over to the left, it was in the left turn lane, right?
No,
It was on the other side of the double yellow?
yes,
Okay. Do you remember exactly where that was?
it was closer to the Marathon, gas station.
And do you know what street, cross street that would be? If you don't, that's fine. If you do-
James, cousin,
Okay, so you were southbound approaching James Cousin?
yes,
Your 16-year-old was in the front seat, you said?
yes,
And your 15-year-old is in the back behind her.
correct,
And at some point then you say this Saturn zipped back over and banged into your car.
was on the side, seen on Trump, seen the cars coming towards him. That's when he slowed down, struck the back of my car
You don't have pictures of your car, do you?
on my phone, and my phone is in my, car.
Okay. Mr. Lawson, then, after you say that this vehicle struck your vehicle, you testified that you slowed down?
I had no choice but to.
That's okay, if you had a choice or not, but that's what you did, slow
Yes,
down?
that's the right, thing to do.
Okay. Is that when you pulled your gun out from where it was concealed?
Yes,
So before anything else happened, you had your gun in your hand?
no,
Where was your firearm? I'm sorry.
always on my hip, on
Okay,
my side.
so let's slow down. I thought that I just asked you, is that when you pulled your gun out and you said yes?
No,
Okay, did I misunderstand you?
yes,
After you slowed down, did the Saturn go past you?
when he struck me and I slowed down, that's when he passed.
And during the course of your testimony, that's the only time that you testified that you slowed down, right?
Yes,
Okay, so you slowed down and he went past you? Yes?
yes,
And then there was a traffic light, was that your testimony?
yes,
And that was the light at James Cousins?
yes.
Okay. And it was red for you for southbound Schaefer traffic?
I didn't pay it no mind. The only thing I noticed was when he struck me and I pulled over, I got control of the car, I pulled over, I stopped. That's when he was in front of me.
Did you just stop in the middle of the road or did you stop
I
at a traffic light?
stopped next to the curb.
Okay. So you pulled over?
Yes,
I see. And you were not at the intersection, is that true?
that's true,
I get it. So you're in the mid-block, you pull all the way over to the curb on the right side.
correct,
I get it. And your testimony is that the Saturn then pulled in front of you to the curb on the right side of the Schaefer Road?
correct,
So you're both in the right wheels to curb.
Correct.
Is that a parking lane along Schaefer? I can't remember if it's parking or not. Sometimes it is, sometimes.
I believe it is. I really don't, pay no mind.
That's okay. I'm confused. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, right? Sometimes there's businesses there, sometimes there's not. Stretches of the road, there's not. Anyway, for our purposes, you were indeed along the right-hand side.
Yes.
Did you turn your vehicle off with the key?
No.
Is that when you pulled your gun out of your concealed place on its
When
head?
I noticed my daughter was freaking out, I proceeded to call 911, and I had my daughter to call too, just in case I didn't, get in touch with the operator. At least one of us was gonna get in touch with the operator. When I noticed he was stepping out of his car, that's when I proceeded to pull my firearm off of my hip.
Okay. What kind of firearm did you own at that time, Mr. Lawson?
At the moment, I had a Beretta.
And what kind of caliber is that?
It's a 9.
That's a semi-automatic weapon?
Yes.
Where was your phone?
My phone was in my hand.
Where was it before it was in your hand?
It was on my lap.
So during the course of this incident, you were not jostled so much that the phone fell off of your lap.
No.
It remained on your lap.
Yes.
Throughout the whole process, all the way over to the right curb.
Yes.
And then when you stopped, you picked up that phone and called 911?
Correct.
Did you connect with 911?
Yes.
Do you know, you said that you told your daughter to call 911. Did you hear evidence of a phone call that your daughter was making?
Both of us was on, the phone with the operator.
Not the same operator.
No.
And you say that because you heard your daughter speaking to somebody and it
Correct.
sounded like they were on 911?
Correct.
Okay. So you spoke to 911, and at that same moment, you saw this person who you've identified as Mr. Bell walking back toward your car.
Correct.
And you saw that he had an iPad in his hand?
Not to cut you off, when I stopped,
Okay, if I get something wrong, the prosecutor will clear something up, but let's just have me ask the questions for now, okay?
okay,
All right. So, and I'll go back though, because you suggested there might be something amiss. You stopped to the right, correct?
yes,
You picked the phone up off your lap to call 911.
correct,
You told your daughter, call 911.
correct,
You connected.
correct,
She connected. At
correct.
least it sounded like it to you.
She was talking to the operator.
You saw the man get out of the Saturn.
Yep,
Did you see at that moment that he had an iPad in his hand?
correct.
That's when you pulled the gun off your hip.
I've been hitting my firearm off my hip.
Now, I'm confused by that. Do you remember the incident? Don't tell me what it was. I'm asking, do you remember the moment that you pulled the firearm off your hip? Don't
When,
tell me what it was. Do you remember it?
yes,
What was it?
I pulled my firearm off my hip
When?
when I noticed he was stepping out of his car.
Isn't that what I just asked?
Yes,
Okay, so that's when you pulled the firearm out of your holster.
correct,
Was it on your right side?
yes,
Is that where you kept it?
always,
Okay, and you put it in your hand,
correct,
and it remained in your hand.
correct,
The phone was in your left hand?
correct.
Were you on the phone when the gentleman came from the Saturn? The gentleman from the Saturn walked back to your car, true?
Correct.
Did you notice then that he had an iPad in his hand?
Yes.
You had your pistol in your hand
Yes.
and the phone in your other.
Correct.
When the gentleman approached your vehicle, did you hold the pistol up?
No.
You kept it down on your lap,
Yes.
in your hand?
Correct.
You had classes for firearms?
Yes.
You had to have one to get, do you have a CPL?
Yes.
You had to have a class to get a CPL.
Yes.
You're familiar with how properly to hold a handgun
Yes.
with your hand wrapped around the grip of the handgun?
Yes.
And that's how you were holding it at that time?
Yes.
And you're saying you did not lift it up to point at Mr.
No.
The guy walking back?
No.
You did not? Okay. So at that point, this person, you say, asked you for insurance?
Correct.
And you said, wait for the cops,
Yes.
basically. And then you told the judge that the man said something about, it appeared to you that he noticed you had a pistol in your hand.
Correct.
Was your window up
Yes.
all the way?
All the way.
How could he hear you, you know? Was he yelling? Were you listening very carefully? How did
The
that work?
way we was both talking, there was no way he couldn't hear what I was saying.
You were
I
talking,
heard exactly what he was saying, and I'm sure he heard exactly what he's saying, that I was saying, but he had the nerves to ask me to roll my window down.
okay, all right. So when this man came back, your window was all the way up.
Yes,
True? And your testimony is that through that closed window, you heard him say something about insurance.
yes,
And was he standing next to your car when he said those words?
yes,
And he had that iPad in his hand?
correct.
You didn't notice anything otherwise about his person, right?
Not at that moment.
And you responded through that closed window, true?
Yes,
And you said, wait for the cops,
correct.
something like that. Right? Something like that, wait.
Yes,
You'll find out when the cops get here, something like that. Right?
correct.
Okay. And is it your testimony that at that point, the gentleman on the outside of the window said to you, roll your window down?
Yes,
Okay, and you said, what?
I told him he can wait, and I can hear him clearly.
You just repeated yourself?
Yes,
You didn't tell him to fuck off or anything like that?
no.
Get away from the car?
The only thing I was telling him is, can he please step away from my car so I can attend to my daughters?
Okay, you did say that.
Yes,
Okay, all right. And it wasn't accompanied by any kind of a threatening language or get away or I'll shoot you or?
the only thing I told the young man was, can you please step away from my car so I can attend to my daughters?
Okay. And when you said those words, Mr. Lawson, did you raise the handgun to show him that you meant business?
No. In the class, if I knew he didn't, have no firearm, it ain't gonna make no sense for me to point my firearm at anybody.
And you learned that in the CPL class?
Yes.
Where did you take your CPL class?
On 8 Mile, I took it 2 different times, one over on, 8 Mile in Grass, and I took one on 8 Mile, down by Telegram.
You took it twice?
Yes,
Did you fail the first time?
no,
Have you ever shot anyone else?
no,
You ever pulled your gun on anyone?
no,
After you said that to the gentleman at the side of the car there, he went back to the front toward his car?
not at that moment.
He said something like, oh, that's how you're gonna play, or that's how you're gonna be, or what are you gonna do, shoot me? Or he said something like that to you?
Yes,
Okay. Still, is it your testimony, still, you didn't raise the firearm?
no,
Okay. And the man walked away?
no.
What happened then?
I had to ask him at least 3 or 4 times in order for him to step away from my vehicle.
It's possible that he was having a hard time hearing you through the closed window?
If I can hear him, and my daughters heard him too.
Your window was still closed?
Yes,
At some point then, Mr. Lawson, the man walked toward the center. True?
he stepped away from my car, started walking towards his car. That's when he started walking away from my car. That's when I seen his firearm in his pocket.
That's what I thought I heard you say. You said that as he was walking away, you saw a firearm in his pocket?
In his jogging pants pocket.
In his jogging pants pocket. Do you remember what color his jogging pants
Blue.
were? Like a blue, sky blue, dark blue?
Dark blue.
Dark. Do you remember which pocket this firearm was in?
It was on, his right.
Okay, so you saw that as he was walking away?
Yes,
He didn't produce it right then.
no,
Where he had pulled over to the right-hand side there on Schaefer Avenue, was he 1 car length, 2 car lengths, more? How far in front of you was he?
he wasn't too far.
Can you guesstimate by car lengths?
It wasn't even 1 car length.
Was there room for another car to park in between
No.
the 2 of you? Okay. So he was relatively close.
He was more about this far away from me.
Okay. Like if you 2 had just been parking, it would have been a decent parking.
Yes,
And for the record, the witness, was that about 18 inches, 2 feet?
I'm not good. It might have been 2 feet.
Okay, thank you.
So you, your testimony is that when this person got to the driver's side door of their car, they turned around and produced that firearm from their pocket?
When he stepped away from my car, he stepped to his car, he opened his car door, he stuck his tablet in his vehicle. That's when I seen him reaching for his firearm.
Okay. At that point, sir, your window was still up.
Still up.
You had to move your vehicle.
Nope.
Okay. And is it your testimony that the man then took a step away from his vehicle?
At least 2 steps away from his vehicle, and that's when I heard the 3 fires went off.
Okay. You say that he took 2 steps. Did he take 2 steps into the travel lane there?
I believe it was.
And you say that you heard 3 shots. Did you see him fire the weapon?
At that moment, the only thing was on my mind was my daughters.
Sure, and I get that. I understand that there's a lot of things that are going on at that instant. But my question is, did you see it with your eyes or just hear it with your ears?
Heard it with my ears.
Okay.
Because at that moment, not to cut you off,
Well,
I didn't, what was going on?
let's just proceed, okay? So, Mr. Lawson, then, when you heard 3 reports, 3 gunshot bangs, did you also hear you said that later on you noticed that there were bullet strikes on where on the front windshield?
On my driver's side door,
On the driver's side door? On the door or the window?
on the window,
On the window, the driver's side window?
pointed at me, directly at me.
Okay, all 3 of those
Yes.
strikes were on the driver's side window.
Yes.
Is it true that you didn't realize that until after the fact?
I was so in shock.
That's fine. I understand that. But you didn't realize it right away.
No,
And your testimony is that that's when you raised your handgun for the first time and shot at the man.
correct.
And you shot through your windscreen,
Windshield,
right through the front windshield.
correct,
5 times.
correct.
Did you testify that you then got out of your car
Yes,
and that you then stood next to your car
yes,
and you still had that handgun in your handgun in your hand?
correct,
And at that point then you raised the handgun and shot again?
yes.
How many times during that second volley, Mr. Lawson, did you fire your handgun?
I didn't even pay it no mind.
Was it once or 10 times, or could you guess?
I just kept firing.
Well, did you fire until your weapon was emptied?
No,
That semi-automatic handgun has a removable magazine,
correct,
and you can load bullets into it.
yes,
And that magazine holds 15 rounds.
no, sir,
It does not hold 15
No.
rounds. It's a Beretta PX4.
correct.
Okay, how many rounds does it hold?
It holds 18,
18. Was it full?
yes,
Did you empty the magazine?
no,
Did you drive away after that second volley of firearm of shooting?
no,
You remained in your vehicle?
correct,
Did the Saturn drive away?
no,
You both sat there and remained there
yes.
until what, the cops came?
To the EMS and the cops came. That's when I stepped out my vehicle. That's when I stepped out my vehicle and proceeded to attend to my daughters.
Okay, how many minutes did it take between the time that you finished shooting and the EMS came?
Not sure.
I mean, like, right away, or were you guys sitting there for a while?
We sat there for a moment.
It felt like a few minutes? I'm putting those words in your mouth.
I'm not sure.
Okay. It wasn't immediate.
No,
Was it long enough that it seemed kind of weird that you were sitting there and this guy you were just shooting at is still sitting there and you're both just
No.
sitting there? It didn't.
no,
EMS came,
yes. 2 of them.
2 of them. Were you using your phone to video record this incident?
No,
Do you know whether either one of your daughters was using their phone to video record
No.
this incident? You don't know.
no,
You said that you called 911, Mr. Lawson. When you were on 911, is that when any shooting happened?
No,
You had hung up the phone with 911 before any shooting happened?
yes. I don't even know if I hung up or not. The only thing I know was I had my phone down to see about my daughters.
Judge, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Briefly, Commissioner. So, Mr. Lawson, you testified that, under cross, that you ended up in the right lane. Did
Yes,
the defendant hit you with his car any additional times?
yes.
Can you please tell us about that?
When we were sitting, he bagged up, bumped the front of my car. I bagged up. He bagged up again and bumped it again. Then I bagged up again and that's when he bumped it for the third time.
So to clarify, after he hit you the initial time and he pulled over to the right,
Correct?
is it your testimony that he intentionally reversed his car 3 times to hit you again?
Yes,
How many times total did he hit your car?
4.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Nothing else, Judge.
No further witnesses.
Judge, we're not going to call anyone to judge.
Thank you, Judge. At this point, the people move to bind over on all charges. We've heard from Mr. Lawson, who testified that he was in his vehicle with his 2 daughters, that the defendant was driving a Saturn and he was driving erratically on Schaefer in Detroit. And that in this erratic behavior, the defendant crossed over into oncoming traffic and then tried to dart back into his normal lane, his legal lane, and in the process hit Mr. Lawson's vehicle. This caused Mr. Lawson to fishtail a little bit. He pulled over to the right, the defendant pulled in front of him, and then on redirect, we heard how the defendant proceeded to intentionally back up into Mr. Lawson 3 additional times. So this is not the action of a trustworthy person, this is erratic behavior, let's say. Mr. Lawson testified that the defendant approached his car and asked for insurance. And Mr. Lawson said, "Let's wait for the police. I need you to back up." Mr. Lawson is a CPL holder. He has his gun on him. He always has his gun on him. The defendant made some comment about, "Oh, you might as well just shoot me." He went back to his car. Mr. Lawson testified that he saw a gun poking out of the jogger pocket, the right-hand pocket of the defendant's joggers. And the defendant placed his tablet, his iPad into his car, and then pulled out his gun, took 2 steps away from the car and fired directly into the driver's side window, pointing directly at Mr. Lawson. Anytime that someone fires into a vehicle, they risk hitting anyone in this vehicle. The driver's window, and in fact, any of the windows in a vehicle it would hit the top half of a person's body, chest, neck, head. And these are all potential kill shots. Fortunately, no one was struck, although Mr. Lawson testified that both of his daughters were injured by flying glass. After the defendant fired 3 rounds, Mr. Lawson got out, or Mr. Lawson fired 5 rounds through the windshield. I don't believe he testified as to whether he was aware that the defendant was hit at that point, but the defendant then went into his car. Mr. Lawson got out of his vehicle and fired several additional rounds. He's not sure how many, but he did not empty his clip. So we had 5 rounds plus a few more rounds. Mr. Lawson identified the defendant as being the one who not only hit his car numerous times on purpose and behaved in a completely erratic manner, but he also testified that the defendant had a weapon on him, that he fired the weapon into the vehicle, potentially risking killing 3 people. So I believe that's all of the elements I need to prove, Judge, if I may just look at the information. We have 3 counts of AWIM. I've already established that. We have 3 counts of GBH, which goes with, you know, the same set of facts are used to prove that. Assault with a dangerous weapon. We have testimony about the handgun and firing it into the vehicle, potentially putting all 3 of those victims in fear and danger, and the attendant felony firearms charges, as well as the carrying concealed. So at this point, Judge, people move to bind over on all charges.
Judge, I think that the evidence, in order to satisfy the obligation, even at this low burden, this stage of the proceeding, counts 1 through 3, it's an actual intention to murder. I think that, first of all, I mean, just as a whole, I think the evidence suggests that there may have been some intention on either side. You have a man who has a handgun in his hand while he's operating the vehicle, produced and available and readily fireable, and apparent to anyone who happens to look in the car. So I think that we're left with a real question about what exactly transpired in terms of the state of mind of either. I recognize that that creates a question of fact, but I just wanted to let you know that that's kind of where I'm going. Even if that's understood and the court finds that those do create a question of fact, I think that for counts 1, 2, and 3, the prosecutor has to show an intention to murder. And if you accept the witness's testimony, Mr. Bell allegedly stepped off so as to create an angle by which those shots would enter the driver's side door specifically. A person could certainly just have stood in front of the vehicle and fired indiscriminately into the windshield. But that's not what happened. I think that supports a contention that the assault with intent to murder, the 3 counts are not properly before the court. 2 of them should be dismissed, even if you credit the testimony as to the shots at Mr. Lawson's seating position. So that's the.
I'm sorry, I lost the end of that. It's not Mr. Lawson, what?
Mr. Lawson's seated position, driver's seat. Yeah, sure. I'm usually not told that I have to speak.
Oh, you're fine. It's
I gotta
just,
be more-
but again, I missed it. Sorry, thank you.
That's okay, Judge. And then, and I've already said, I think that the evidence suggests really that it's a question about what the state of mind of each of the actors was. And I frankly don't think that Mr. Lawson is an innocent party here, but he's not the one in the dock. So that's my argument.
Okay, I am not going to recite facts. We all heard them today. The question here is mainly with intent for assault, intent to murder, whether or not 3 counts are justified here. And we both know, or all of us know, injuries are not required for assault with intent to murder. In this case, I should read out the elements. For assault with intent to murder, the prosecutor must prove this standard, probable cause standard, that the defendant tried to physically injure another person. I believe this case shows testimony that the defendant did try to physically injure another person using a firearm and discharging. Second, that when the defendant committed the assault, he had the ability to cause an injury, or at least believe he had the ability. common knowledge, when you have a gun, you have the ability to cause injury, especially discharge. Third, that the defendant intended to kill the person he assaulted, and the circumstances did not legally excuse or reduce the crime. So the question here is, did the defendant intend to kill the three individuals in this car? So Mr. Lawson sitting in the driver's seat, and his daughters were sitting, one in the passenger seat and one in the passenger back seat. Of course, we don't have testimony of the defendant saying, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill only you, I'm going to kill you, sir, or anything of that nature that would make this easier. However, I do believe that the defendant, I should say, Mr. Bell, did intend to kill Mr. Lawson for sure. And I think for the other two individuals, it's a question of fact, the trier of fact, because he still fired 3 rounds into the vehicle, and they were in close proximity to Mr. Lawson, and after consequence of firing a gun, leads to death. So for those 3 counts, I'm going to bind over, and with the lesser included, of course, the assault with intent to great bodily harm, the 3 counts of felony firearm, and the following count of weapons felony firearm. For the weapons carrying concealed. Count 19. Defense counsel, did you make an argument on count 19 at all?
I did not, Judge. I would say if you would invite me to do so, I would say only that no evidence was elicited to show that Mr. Bell did not possess a CPL.
Well, that's the only, I was in a state where we can carry a concealed pistol as long as we have a pistol license. And there was no testimony from the officer from running a lien saying that he did not have the right to carry a gun the way he did. So with count 19, I'm going to dismiss that count. For the rest, once the 18, I will bind them over. So, Mr. Bell, you will have an arraignment on the information for February 28th at 9:00 a.m. Frank Murphy Hall of Justice.
And Judge, maybe get just on.
Yes.
Thank you. The people would move to remand the defendant, or at the very least, will met a much higher bond. He's out on a personal bond right now, which is kind of shocking because this is a shooting case. Mr. Bell was in broad daylight, 3:15 p.m. He was crashing into cars and then shooting into an occupied vehicle. This is a clear danger, not only for the victims of this case specifically, but for all of the people in Detroit. This man is a danger to the community. He's a danger to the people of Detroit. Now that the case has been bound over, he's that much more likely to be a flight risk. This is a very serious case, Your Honor. 2 underage girls were in danger of being murdered that day, as well as their father, and thank goodness they weren't. But the people believe that this is a serious enough circumstance to warrant a much higher bond. The people would ask for $500,000 cash, or a remand. Judge, the people believe that the safest place for the people of Detroit and for the victims is for this man to be in Wayne County Jail awaiting trial. Thank you.
Judge, I will indicate that Mr. Bell was hospitalized for a period of almost a month following this incident. He sustained several gunshot wounds. As you can see, I will indicate for the record that Mr. Bell stands before you with a neck brace, with a patch over his eye, and various scars underneath his shirt from surgery and other medical intervention sustained as a result of this incident. The bond that was set, I think, was set while he was in the hospital. I'll grant the court that and the prosecution. However, I believe that Mr. Bell was released in mid-January, and he has been essentially house arrest except for any ongoing medical needs, which there are plenty. I will indicate that Mr. Bell is not charged as a habitual offender. I have not been provided with his full criminal history, but I've not heard any allegations that this allegation represents a continuing pattern of behavior. And I would indicate that if Mr. Bell has been out of the hospital and home since at least mid-January, that's a full month, there's been no incidents. I don't think there's any reason or any cause to convince this court to change the mind.
Let's see here. Before I appeared in this case, there was a bond redetermination hearing in which the bond was reduced to 100,000 personal tether house arrest, is that correct?
Yes.
There haven't been any incidents, since then, have there?
Well, yeah, the victims have reported and they made police reports about being followed, being harassed at the hospital after the incident occurred by the defendant's family. And they have reported incidents of certain vehicles driving by their homes that they believe are associated with the defendant. They've made reports as to these. I can't prove that at this time.
Okay, I was just about to ask that if they have filed a police report at all, or if they identify who family members are.
I'm not sure about that. My OIC is saying no.
I don't think that'll change Mr. Bell's behavior, he's on house arrest.
Okay. And the court cautioned him.
Oh, for sure, yeah, thank you. So, Mr. Bell, I'm not going to remand you or change your bond, okay? But you have to understand that your family members are an extension of you, so if there are any reports that your family or friends are harassing the complaining witnesses in any way, contact whatsoever, then they're going to be charged as well. I'm not the prosecutor, but I believe that the people can speak to that. And then we're gonna have to deal with your family and whoever it is, if that is the case. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just because you haven't done anything doesn't mean that consequences won't happen to your family, whoever it is that's harassed, if they're harassing. Right.
Understand.
So you just continue to stay at home, you're only to leave if you have medical appointments that you have to go to. It's obvious that you have had some, because we had to adjourn it because you were in the hospital. No contact, that means no social media, no through other friends, family, any type of communication whatsoever with the complaining witness.
Yes, sir.
You understand that?
No drive-bys.
No drive.
I don't know this man from the campaign around it. My
Okay.
people, we are. Yes, sir.
Let's keep it that way. Okay? Anything else?
Nothing from Mr. Bell. Thank you.
Mr. Russell.
Oh, this, let me see. Did you? You heard it, right?
Virgo, where?
Yeah. the record, this is people of the state of Michigan versus D. Gary Ware. Case number 2355336. Mrs. Ware is charged with count 1, weapons, firearms, possession by a felon. Count 2, weapons, felony, firearms. This is a habitual offender fourth offense notice. They set for a preliminary examination.
Good morning, Your Honor. APA Pat Wagner, the people, P8415.
Morning or afternoon, rather, neighborhood defender service by Kate Demott Grady, the 83667, on behalf of Mr. Dean Ware, who is present with us in the courtroom. Mr. Ware, will you please state your name?
Dean Penware Jr.
Are both parties ready to proceed?
People are ready.
Your Honor, there's just a discovery issue I'd like to address. So this case, stems from a search warrant that was executed. I have received at least 14 body cam videos. Most of them are 2 hours long. I have watched those videos, and I do not have the portion of the recovery of the gun that forms the basis of these charges. I am asking for that discovery, as well as, just because it's been so voluminous to go through, requesting basically a brief adjournment for the people to produce that missing discovery. Additionally, we're missing the interrogation of Mr. Ware. I know the officer it looks like he may have just turned off his body cam when he was interrogating. If that's the case, obviously that video might not exist, but I would like representation and at least to look into whether that exists, as recording of interrogation obviously is important.
Judge, I just got this case yesterday, so I wasn't aware of these issues. I'm happy to do what I can to either locate what defense needs or determine that it doesn't exist. I'm happy to work with my OIC on that, and I have no objection to it.
So my question was gonna be, do you know if it exists?
I don't know if it exists, but I will work with my OIC to find out.
Okay, so because we don't know if it exists or not, I will write it. So, now before, specifically, it may be other stuff, but interrogation video, as well as the body cam of recovery of the gun from the search warrant.
Yes, Judge. I wrote down those tonight.
All right, so let's do the date. Okay, he's not in custody, so that's a good thing. We can be a little more flexible. I guess you all, are we talking next week?
I'm available next week. Let's see. Wednesday would work well for me.
Third?
10:30? Yep, that works well.
Now, if everyone else shows up on time in the morning, we can go at 10. But when people show up an hour late, you're late than everyone else. So be patient with us if
Yes.
it's not exactly 10:30.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing else.
Nothing else.
All right, you're off the record.
And I believe that's all for today.
You the attorney on the case?
Wonderful.
What's your